Hi everybody, welcome to another video. This week I wanted to review another set of Wargames rules that have just arrived this week, hot off the press. It's one of the Osprey Wargames series, the little blue books, which we're all familiar with. This one, Wars of the Republic, Ancient Roman Wargaming, 343 to 50 BC. Always been a big fan of the Osprey Wargames rule sets. They're short, concise, always have a very similar format, and for me, importantly, they're not a huge investment monetary wise, and as a rules lover and creator myself, I always like to purchase rules even if I don't actually get them in action on the table. I love reading, understanding the mechanics that the authors come up with, and this was no different. It's a period I'm very interested in, ancient Rome, the civil wars, as well as the wider conflicts, and these rules are designed to cover both elements of that. And what I was intrigued to see was how the author Eric Farrington would apply such a vast space of time and conflict into an Osprey rule set. And I've got to say, so far, having had a loose read through it, picked out some of the key things that jumped out to me on the page, that he looks like he may well have achieved that. So let's sort of go over some of the basics in terms of what the rules look like. They're very similar format, as I say, to a normal Osprey rule set. 44 pages of rules and extras, and then there are other pages covering campaigns, historical scenarios and design notes. It's a D6 system, and it's fairly scale agnostic. The author has sort of indicated 10mm up to 40mm, biased probably towards 28. My own personal opinion would be either to use my existing 28mm Romans, or probably more likely some 10mm Roman Carthaginians that I've got waiting on my painting line, which I'm really looking forward to painting, so this may give me the impetus to do that. There's no basing regulations. Units can be single bases, or they could be multiple bases, or single figures, depending on how you want to do it. Again, as long as both sides are the same, he felt the rules would work either way. So that, for me, again, is a big positive. I like that in rule sets, and often the driver for me is the fact that I can use existing armies, as you'll have seen from some of my multi-use armies. I like multi-use rule sets from that point of view as well. All the standard things you would expect in a fairly straightforward set of rules. So we've got movement, attacking, shooting, but we've then got some of these other elements in there: courage, armor, discipline, and special rules. And the special rules or special options are really what give the flavor to the various armies you can use in this game. So let's talk a bit through a typical turn. You have what they call, or what he tentatively calls, the commander's gaze part phase, followed by initiative, activations, melees, and then an end phase. So the commander's gaze, and this is really interesting, the tokens that are generated each turn by the commander based on the army, the leaders, the characters, etc. in the game. And these tokens will allow lots of choices for the player, whether that be to try and win the initiative, whether it be to influence certain hotspots of the battlefield, whether to add modifiers, whether to help boost morale, or indeed rally troops. So there's lots of different things that this commander's gaze and the tokens can be used, but it sounds like you will never have enough to do everything you want to do, and that for me seems to be where the friction element of the system is based, and I really like that. I very much like to see friction in war games. I think it's really important. No commander in any battlefield situation can ever do everything he wants to do, or never has exactly the right types of troops that he wants. There are always challenges, and I think friction adds or sort of blends that nicely. So initiative fairly straightforward from that point of view. Players roll off to see who gets the initiative, and then they would follow these phases which in principle sounds a bit more like I go, you go. Activations will then be for formations, and again I like the fact that within the movement and the activation, he's encompassed some flavour of the period with the formations such as phalanx, legion, rhombus, wedge, all these sort of names that someone who studies this period will be familiar with. They're all in the game there, and they can all be used by your units. Shooting, melee, relatively straightforward, using d6s with plus and minus modifiers, but I quite like the way the damage system or the attrition system has been built into units. So what I like is that the number of hits will determine the impact on armor. So each unit will have an armor value, let's say 2, and for every 2 hits you will lose a courage factor. So every unit will have a number of courage, which is the number of hits it can sustain, and that impacts on things like its discipline and whether it will run away or break under stress. But I like the fact that the multiple of hits element is quite clever. So if you've got a unit with an armor of 3, it's got to take 3 hits before it loses 1 of its courage, whereas a unit with an armor of 1 would only take 1 hit. So if it takes 3 hits, it's taken 3 hits. I hope that makes sense. But I thought that was quite a nice mechanic in there. But really, outside of that general kind of approach, it's the special rules and indeed the advanced rules that will add real flavour into the game. So we've got special rules covering, as I say, all the different formations, both in terms of how that impacts on movement, and also will give modifiers in different situations. So as I said, all the formations already mentioned. You've then got things such as drill, counter charges, use of pilums or pillar, heedless charges, so these are all kind of fanatical charges, terror, evasion, pursuits, and things like moving and shooting, skirmishes, etc, etc. So all those other elements are kind of bits that can be added in as you go along, and then the advanced rules bring that on one step further with things like hoplite shift, which will be obviously a hoplite formation, the impact on movement in that formation, killed leaders, etc. So there's quite a few other bits in there that add a lot of ancient battles flavour to the rules themselves. So the core rules are probably only about 25 pages, so it's not too bad from that point of view. But they're very well written, very concise. They've obviously been read through many times and looked through before they've been released, which is good to see. But the rest of the book really covers a wealth of information. So all different types of units for the different adversaries are listed in there. You've got army lists, you've got scenarios, you've got a campaign system, you've got historical and generic scenarios. So historical scenarios covering 6 different battles. There really is a lot of information in this book, and I certainly would highly recommend getting it on your bookshelf and having a look through it. Whether you're interested in this period or not, the Osprey Wargames rule sets offer great value for money. and as we can see there from some of the pictures and the way it's laid out, it's always excellent production values, and there is a lot in there, a lot of bang for your buck. So that's Wars of the Republic, Ancient Roman Wargaming by Osprey, written by Eric Farrington. Hope you've enjoyed this short review, and I'm looking forward to getting this on the table myself, and I look forward to seeing you again at the next video.